A harsh definition of closures is that they are things that can do stuff and they can be passed around. If you've used Objective-C, they're very similar to blocks, and you can actually use closures and blocks interchangeably. The Swift Programming Guide says that there are 3 types of closures under the umbrella of closures: global functions, nested functions, and closure expressions. These are the 3 types, but in a sense, I kind of more think of them this way. There are 2 types of closures, and there are 2 types of functions. So here's functions, that's one type, and then there are nested and global. And what separates a function from an expression, both of which are closures, is that an expression doesn't have a name and a function does. A lot of you are probably used to using functions like this. So func, call parents, and we're going to print hey mom. And then you can, that's the function definition. And you can add this to a flashcard. The question, is this a closure? And call parents is. So the answer is yes. All right, now, and the way to call the function is and you'll see it print hey mom down here in the console in a moment. There we go. All right. Now, this is also a closure definition, and this is a closure call. All right, so the interesting thing about closures is that they are a first-class type, meaning they can be passed around in your code. For example, let's change this to call mom, and then this one's going to be call dad. For to-do list, and it's going to be of type takes nothing and returns nothing. So that is a closure type. It has this dash with an arrow, and on the left side you give the parameters that you pass in, and on the right side you give the return types. So I'm going to make this array, and it's going to be, we're going to have call mom, and this is not going to work right here. And the reason is, when you define a function like this, what you're really returning is void. So when I'm calling the function, the value and type that gets put here is actually of type void. It's not the closure itself. So in order to give the closure itself, I would have to delete the parentheses, and now it'll compile. Let's say I wanted to call it, what would the type have to be here? The type would have to be void, and now it will compile. All right, so call dad and call mom. So one thing we can do, I'm going to change the type back to the correct, or the closure type that we're using. And now I'm going to make a for loop, and I'm going to demonstrate how it can be kind of a cool thing that you can use closures this way. So for example, this can be useful for video games. Like if you have a character and he's about to do certain things, you don't have to write the code out multiple times. You could just call the same function multiple times. All right, so first time through the for loop, it gets the call mom closure and passes it to the name item, and then it calls it. Then it gets the call dad closure, or assigns it to the name item, and then calls it. And then it gets the call mom closure and assigns it to the name item and calls it. So first we get hey mom for this one, dad, call dad, and then hey mom for this one.